It's time to set the record queer.
Hello, intrepid listeners, and welcome to Setting the Record Queer, a podcast where queer people talk about the pursuits and communities they love. This is episode 0, our pilot, and it's about speedrunning. My name is Alexis, and my pronouns are she, her, and its, and I'm one of your hosts.
I'm your other host. My name is Kaylee, and my pronouns are she, her.
So, since this is the first episode of our podcast, before we get into what we want to talk about, I want to take a bit of time to talk about us. You know, ideally, we keep doing this podcast and you keep listening to this podcast, so we should feel like we're friends. So let me tell you a little bit about Kaylee and I. So Kaylee and I are both trans women. We're both queer, polyamorous trans women even, and we're girlfriends. We're both Twitch live streamers and video game speedrunners, and we live together. For the entire time we've been dating, some year and a half, and living together a year, we've always wanted to do a podcast, maybe once a week, twice a month, if that. One of us will be like, hey, what would you think about doing a podcast on this? And usually the answer would be, no, that's a terrible idea. Until we had the idea for Setting the Record Queer. And that's how we ended up here. We just bounced ideas until this one kind of stuck. So the idea of Setting the Record Queer, as Kaylee initially pitched it, was, a podcast where we interview people about the things that they care about. Because we really both of us have this, common trait of enjoying listening to each other talk about the things that we really, really like. We have a lot in common. We have a lot that's different between us. And hearing about each other's passions is something we enjoy. And I think that extends to, everyone really. So we had the idea of talking to people about the things they care about, and that kind of naturally evolved into talking to queer people about things they care about. And that's where we ended up with Setting the Record Queer.
Yeah. We went through a lot of bad ideas, but we got here.
A lot of bad ideas.
We got here.
We really did. So now it is time to introduce the very special guests that we have for this episode.
Oh boy, I'm excited.
We spent our entire podcast budget on getting these two. Hey, Setting the Record Queer listeners. My name's Alexis, and I'm one of your podcast hosts. I hope you enjoyed this little teaser of what Setting the Record Queer Episode 0 is going to bring you. So Episode 0 is going to be releasing at midnight on July 31st, and you can find it on hopefully all of your favorite podcast platforms. Hope you enjoyed this teaser, and stay tuned for the real thing. You can find more information about the Setting the Record Queer podcast on our Twitter at STRQueercast. You can find me on Twitter at Princess Proto and my co-host Kaylee at Witches Hex with no E in witches. Our wonderful podcast art was done by Cubotic, QBTIC on Twitter, or Cobot, QOBOT.tumblr.com. And our theme music, which you got a taste of in this teaser, was created by Thrill Me Music, who you can find more information about at thrillmemusic.squarespace.com. Thanks for listening.